Hi, Dr. Ruth Anderson here with Enlightened World Network. It is my absolute honor to be here today with Terry Angel and Robert Painley. We are spending some time talking about the growth of Enlightened World Network and what an exciting time it is. We've got folks that are wanting to come be on our network, and we absolutely want them. Now, the programming on some of this feels a little different to us. It's things like yoga, starting out our morning moving. We've got folks wanting to do different kinds of meditations. And we're talking about different kinds of energy and being aware of it and knowing that it exists. But how do we recognize it? What do we do with it? So there's so many different things that we're talking about that just feels a little like a different genre than EWN as we've come to know and love it. And so we are branching out. We're creating what we're calling a second channel. It's not really a channel, folks. It's a new website, it's a new page on Facebook, but it's our new channel. And we're calling it EWN Enlightened Living. Terry, you want to share some thinking about EWN Enlightened Living?
Okay. Am I speaking? Because it told me my internet was frozen there for a minute. That happens a lot with that high energy that's going out over the waves. So yes, I am very excited about this new channel because we have grown, and it's like when you have clothes that you're growing out of. It's all of a sudden they're too tight, and so you need that expansion. So we are bringing in these programs that I think are incredible. I just think what's going to be offered, it is like a different flavor, but it's expanding, and that's what we're doing. Our energies are expanding. This is not the time to just sit stagnant. So what we're bringing in are amazing shows that still are very spiritual based. It's all going to be light workers that are presenting, but it's just going to be maybe something to make you stretch your thinking a little bit. And that's what I love about it. And I'm very excited that we're doing this new way of bringing shows, and you have an opportunity. You have the ability to choose, what do I want to watch? And if you turn something on and it's not what you resonate with, okay, go to the next channel. That's how you do when we watch entertainment, right? If I don't like a movie, I've started on my streaming, I turn it off, I go to another movie. So it's the same thing. It's going to be an opportunity for people to just be exposed to more than what we've normally brought. And Ruth, I love that vision, and I love the expansion that's happening with Enlightened World Network.
Right. Thank you, Terry. And we provide shows, we provide meditations. Sometimes we just get on and say, wow, guys, today's a tough day. What can we do to keep up the faith here? So our shows have taken on, and I use the word shows in quotes, right? It's just our offerings
Yeah.
have taken on all different kinds of feels to them because we stay current. We go with what are folks feeling today, and we talk about, and your Coffee and Conversations is the perfect example of that. Talk to us a little bit about Coffee and Conversations.
Oh my God, how I love that show. This show just happened. It wasn't something that we sat and planned and said, oh, let's do this. I was sitting outside one morning having coffee. I'm here quarantined with my friend Gerald Ann Heatherdale, and it happens to be on the beautiful St. Johns River, with surrounded by nature. The Ocala forest is across the way, across the river. We have trees on each side of us, a swamp. So we have gators that come up. We have all kinds of wildlife, birds. So I'm sitting outside having my coffee, and I look up and the ospreys are talking to me. And I said, wow, wouldn't it be amazing to bring other people into this and have them experience this with me? So I turned my Facebook on, I turned on live and just went. And I said, okay, here's where I'm at. Here's what I'm doing. And people just started gravitating. That first live, I had over 200 views of something that just happened spontaneously. So then Gerald Ann and I decided, let's do this every morning. Let's just have coffee and talk and see how everybody's doing during this time that we're separated and isolated. And it has exploded. People just need that sense of community right now. And that's what we have to offer. So every morning in our pajamas, we sit and have coffee and just talk about what's going on, whatever comes up. It's beautiful, and we absolutely love it. And it can be found at Enlightened World Network. That's where we stream from.
Right. So all of these shows are live. That's one of the cool things to me about Enlightened World Network. It's all live. These things weren't prepared 2 months ago. This is, what time is it today? 11:11. I love that. What better number could there be? So that is one of the things that differentiates Enlightened World Network, or what we lovingly call EWN, from different offerings. And then all of our shows are archived on YouTube for EWN. And every one of our speakers who comes on has their own playlist. And so you can go on, if you love Terry Angel, which a lot of folks do, by the way, you can go onto our playlist, her playlist, and see her different shows. So it's a great way to do a deep dive and learn more about your favorite speaker. But speaking about pajamas, Terry, you have brought a special person, a special guest to EWN, and that's Robert Painley. And Robert has been with us before on a day of transformation, and folks loved his show. That particular show was about clearing energy and different things you could do. And watching that show, you just want to take notes. When I go to the grocery store, I need to buy blah, 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 right? So you can come home and clear energy yourself. He had so many specific details and ideas on what to do to clear energy. And what Robert brings to the table, in my mind, is a deeper or broader understanding of energy, because so many of us only believe in the things we can see and touch. Now, Robert grew up seeing things other people didn't. And then he learned how to work with that. And now that's what he does. He shares that information about things that he can see that other folks can't, and how he works with it. So Terry, you brought Robert to us. Would you please introduce Robert to us?
I would love to. This is one of my favorite people in the whole world. And when I was doing a house clearing, I was struggling. I was having some problems with what was there, the energy that was there. And one of my friends said, "You need Robert. You need to talk to Robert." And I had no idea who Robert was. So I called Robert up, and we talked for probably an hour on the phone, the first time we ever spoke. And it was just like this beautiful, loving, compassionate energy on the other side of the phone. And that's how he is. I've worked with Robert. I know that he's the real deal. I know that what he says, I see this, he sees this. So I am so happy that we connected recently. We've been in touch by text, and he told me that he had something coming up and he wanted to talk to me about it. And it was, he's going to do some lives. So we spoke, and I loved the idea of what he's going to do. And so I came to you, Ruth, and I said, let's have Robert on Enlightened World. I think that would be wonderful to open up our viewers to this type of information. And that's a lot of what's going to come through. And we also found out that Robert and I live very close to each other. I can walk to his house. So, Robert, I come and stalk you at your house sometimes. So, you know. What spirit does Robert have there tonight?
Figure it's just you.
So I love this man. This is Robert Painley, one of the most well-known mediums in South Florida and soon to be the world. And Robert, I just love you. Thank you for being with us and bringing your haunted pajamas to Enlightened World.
Thank you, Terry. What a lovely introduction. And thank you, Ruth, for the opportunity to come on and talk a little bit more about what I do, and hopefully provide people with a little bit more of a different view of how to view spirit as I see it and I work with it. What you do is extremely important work, and keeping people centered and meditated, and doing yoga and having them breathe deeply and all of these things to keep themselves calm in this challenging time out there. But hopefully what I'm going to be able to provide through this avenue is a little bit of entertainment, to try and maybe forget a little bit about the day's news and that sort of thing, and also then learn something from it, and learn experience that I had that I may not have learned from or couldn't deal with at the time, but my experience has taught me how I might deal with something differently now as opposed to then. And then also, if you have something or if you experienced something like this, let's talk about what maybe you should do or can do or should have done perhaps in these instances that would help the spirits move on. So we'll talk about all types of energy, all types of spirits, how I see them, how other people see them, because we're all different in how we perceive spirit. And I'm very, very specific, always have been for more than 50 years, about how I get and receive information from spirit. And I just want to be able to have a platform to share that in a way that's very non-threatening and easy for people to understand. And I think that's easier to do when you're calm, you're ready for bed. You can start your days in pajamas with Terry, go through your day, meditate and do yoga in pajamas, and end your day in pajamas on the show. So I think it's a great way to be able to spend your day and, find that center, find that peace. And hopefully, I could give you a little bit of entertainment before you fall asleep at night. And if I can't, then you can always listen to a sleep meditation before you go to bed, which is all here on the network. So
that's true.
Great.
That's great. So Robert, talk to us about your platform with Spirit Focus. So
Okay.
here on EWN, our shows, all of our meditations, all of our shows, there's 4 things that we strive to do. One is to educate, one is to inspire, one is to enlighten, and one is to empower. And I know that your work is truly in alignment with what it is that we do. So share with us about Spirit Focus.
Okay. So Spirit Focus, I was downsized out of position years ago. I had been doing this work for a long time, but I did it kind of under the radar. I was a little bit afraid of how to work with it. Quite frankly, being in corporate America, it was sometimes challenging for me to remain centered in that environment and come and do this type of work. So since that time, I opened my LLC and started to do this full time. And what I found is staying in a centered place helped me be able to do my work much more efficiently. So I opened Spirit Focus LLC at that time to be able to accomplish the mission. And I was never comfortable in any place that I've ever lived because I always sensed and felt spirit, didn't know what to do with that energy, how to work with it when I was a child. Going into my 20s and 30s and then into my 40s, there was an epiphany that came through a particular event at that time that led me to this road, that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So my mission basically became, how do I help people feel comfortable in their own home, in their place of business, on the land that they're on? And at that time, it was, how do I use my talents and instead of being afraid of it, embrace it to help others? So that's where now I work with a lot of burgeoning psychics or mediums, people who are interested in the genre, to go out and try to figure out how to better utilize their own talents, because we're all different. God gave us all different gifts. We're all not the same in how we sense and perceive spirit. So how do we work with the gifts that you have to be able to help you fulfill your journey spiritually, to help get you to where you're supposed to be on this path? Some people become afraid of that journey. I was. And from personal experience, I went through a lot of trials and tribulations to get there. And now I want to help people avoid my missteps and all of the processes I had to go to get there. If I can help teach and help people get there in a more convenient way for them, it helps them maybe alleviate the fear of the process and maybe quell some of their nerves on what they're sensing and perceiving. Because some people, as you know, some people feel crazy of what they're sensing and perceiving, and then it has a mental effect on them, and some people won't be able to sleep, but it takes a physical toll on them. So we want to try and alleviate some of the symptomatic effects of working with spirit can cause people. Now, that's what you do so well on the Light World Network, by keeping people centered and keep them meditating, keep them focused on themselves and they're opening up to spirit. But once you're open, things can happen. I think once you open and you begin to grow spiritually, additional information can be relayed to you, or things can happen. And that's where I kind of step in, I think, in some instances, to try and help people who are opening in a different way at that point, because some of that, you get lower vibrations maybe coming in or something. And this is where we want to make sure that you're protected and that you're able to make sure that you stay as a centered being so that you can help others as best as possible.
Robert, I still appreciate what you're saying. I have had experiences of doing house cleaning, house clearings myself. And as I was learning that and experiencing some of these things, Archangel Michael and Archangel Raphael were also teaching me through meditation.
Absolutely.
And they were teaching me about all of the different levels of energy, some being very low level energy and some being extremely high level energy.
Right.
And I remember at one point saying, okay, so why are you teaching me this? And they said, because you need to understand the whole spectrum to be able to do the work that we want you to do. And there wasn't a, ooh, it's creepy, ooh, it's scary, ooh, it's awful, ooh, it's horrible, ooh, it's demonic. That wasn't how they presented it to me. They
Right.
presented it to me as, this is just the spectrum.
Right.
And
Fantastic.
that's how I've tried to really look at those things, just awareness of the spectrum.
Well, that's fantastic. I didn't get that ease into it. I was very lucky because I had Native American spirits behind the house that helped protect me. I knew I was protected. I never felt threatened at 4 or 5 years old. I always felt protected, and that they was imparting wisdom to me. And I know that I wasn't afraid. It was only after I began to grow and I began to see different levels of spirit coming into the bedroom, and there would be spirits lined up outside my room. I was on the top of a bunk bed, and all I could see people was from basically, here up every night, but I couldn't understand them. I couldn't hear them speak. I could see them all. And then as my gift grew, then I heard them speak, and then I heard, so all of those processes, all those steps along the way helped me understand what was good, what was bad, what I should work with, what I shouldn't work with. And it got to a point where spirit takes you where you need to be. And I know that I'm being called to work with challenging energy, shall we say, on occasion. And they have protected me and made me feel that way. I really embraced my Catholicism when I was a child because I felt safe in that environment. And because, that was the only place I felt safe, because I didn't know how else to deal with it at that juncture in my life. So I really embraced the faith, embraced what I felt as being safe and secure for me. So I take all of the things that I've learned by living in multiple countries and try to incorporate that into working. Terry was there when we had a beautiful Native American experience where they provided a wonderful message for me of acceptance and to be able to work with their energy, because I'm very respectful of other people's cultures and their belief systems and things of this nature when I go in. And I think if we all need to be respectful of everyone's point of view, doesn't mean we have to agree with it, but there is a certain level of understanding that we need to come to the table with, as all light beings, all trying to get to the same place, all trying to help others and raise the vibration of the world, particularly now when we're in such I don't want to say dire straits, but in such a place where people just don't feel comfortable or at ease. We need to put that energy out there so we can try to mitigate some of that disease.
Right. So your show with us is
Yeah.
Robert's Haunted Pajama Party. Tell us a little bit about that. That just sounds like fun. And one of the things that Terry and I keep reminding ourselves is lighten up. We take our job so seriously, and you are offering us the opportunity to just lighten up. I can't tell us about this show.
Well, you may live to regret those words because you don't know my total personality. But I too, again, what I love about it is live, right? There's not a retake of this. And this was an idea like Terry's epiphany of being outside and coming to, this idea of how she wanted to have this morning show as almost a coffee clutch and bringing people in and inviting them in and having this enjoyable experience in the morning. I want people to come away too with, I try to view life with a sense of humor as well. We have to live through it, and it will be in my pajamas, and I'm going to be telling a story that affected my life in some way. Maybe one that wasn't particularly that was maybe difficult for me to deal with at the time, or even spooky or scary for me to deal with at the time. But that was a personal experience, because it was not so much that it was gory or horrible or doing anything to me. It was just I didn't understand how they were trying to communicate with me mostly. So I think that people will see that thread through all the stories is it was my lack of understanding, my lack of growth, my lack of spiritual growth at that time that prevented me from working with these spirits in a particular way. So taking that experience and now moving to a pajama party forum where I'm able to tell those stories, because we all, I think, have experiences that we can't explain in our life. And there may be, people may find commonalities in some of the stories that I have, but now I want to explain and maybe help teach people what I learned from that experience, how I now take that and utilize it in now another experience that I had with somebody out there, which helped people. So it may have been a spooky or scary experience for me at that time, but I learned from it, took that information, was able to help both spirit and on another plane and spirit on this plane with the information that I gathered from it. So, the only word I have is, it's in my pajamas. So hopefully there's not a wardrobe malfunction throughout this entire series. But other than that, I think it's going to be a good, fun experience. And we can have some fun talking about some fun stories and fun experiences.
At least you will be sitting down. So that's
I will be sitting. and I put on the COVID-15 here. So, I may put some pillows around me and stuff, to kind of hide the effects of being in isolation and eating for the last 4 or 5 weeks. But yeah, we'll go that direction.
I get that. Now, part of what you do when you're sensing spirit is you help them to move on. So
right.
Is all of the energy that you work with spirit focus, is it typically folks that have transitioned over but didn't fully go? Is that kind of how it is?
I get them in a variety of ways. So I could go into lots of stories, but I obviously call on Michael for protection and Gabriel and other people, other archangels for specifics, but I work very closely with Archangel Azrael. And Azrael, as the angel of death, helps me. My job is in packaging and delivery. His job is in crossing, right? So this is how I kind of view my role. I'm able to work with spirits, and sometimes I work with spirits who on this plane may have been mentally challenged or had dementia or something of this nature, didn't understand what was happening. I had one drowning victim who didn't realize he was dead and felt in that space of turmoil and just rolling over in a wave and didn't realize he had passed 11 years ago. And I had to spiritually smack him into understanding that and tell him, I mean, it's not great news that I want to deliver, but let him know that he's no longer on this plane, but he can continue. I feel that you have a son and a daughter here on this plane. How, you can connect with them, but now you need to do it from a different space. And I need to cross you, because if you stay in the space, what's happening to you is it's going to turn you negative, because the frustration, the anger, the anguish, all of this thing that you're experiencing over and over again for years will eventually turn to negative energy. And he was so nice. Once I got his attention, he understood right away that I was trying to help, knew what he had to do, and crossed willingly, easily. But sometimes it's just explaining. When people have maybe a mental disability or something with that I have to work with, they don't easily understand, but I'm told how to work and what I have to say to these individuals to get them to understand. I can do it 2 ways. I liken it to being in an old Western. I can either invite you through the saloon doors and cross you into the light, or I could throw you through the saloon window. You're still going to go where you need to be, because it's the right place for you to be, for you to continue your spiritual journey. It's the right thing to do for the soul, right? So I see and sense spirit in different ways. Sometimes I'll get just a voice. Sometimes I will see them as I see somebody like you on this plane, or I will see a shadow. Or last night I was talking to a client and the alarm system went off in the middle of talking to them, but they contact me, let me know they're around. I lit up and I know that I'm communicating. So I sense them in all different ways. I actually have a kind of a little TV on the shoulder. So I'm talking to you. I kind of see this little area between worlds here where I can talk to spirit and see them in a different way. And I've always been able to do that. It seems strange and it's hard to explain to people what I do sometimes, but at least it works. And they found a way to communicate with me that works for them, that works for me. And once you find something that works, there's no reason to change it. And you know, I will continue to probably see spirit this way for the rest of my life. And it's helpful. And when I find that it's beneficial for my client, it's beneficial for the soul that may have been departed, or myself. It's a win-win-win all the way around karmically, and it's the right thing to do spiritually. So I always know that I'm coming from a place of God and a place of light when I'm doing that type of work. So spirit focus itself works to help these types of souls move on. Your specific question about how I perceive them, many different ways. Again, some of them are very, very good. I would say 95% of the beings that I work with are very good. But some of them are like any players in any part of any existence. You've got some bad apples. And when I have to work with those, I change my mode. I get into directly communicating with my archangels and my spirit guides and do what I have to do. It's a no fear. I can't show fear. I can't show empathy. It is, this is what has to happen. You are going today, and we move them on. Thankfully, I don't have to be in that space often because that takes a lot of energy to do that. But sometimes, you know, they'll do things like taunt you and, you know, tell you you're not strong enough, you don't know enough, and they try to figure out a way because they know what you can do, and I'm not the only one who can do it. And I think it's good work, and if we can all make this world a little bit better place for the spirits who have left versus as well as the spirits who are here, we're doing the right thing, you know. So
everything you're talking about is fascinating, and I've experienced similar things that you're describing. I didn't happen to choose to go into that side of energy, but I have to wonder, you talk about seeing spirit as young as 4 or 5, and I'm guessing it was happening before that. You just weren't aware, didn't have the language.
Correct.
What was it like to parent you? How did your parents either support you in this or totally try to turn it off? What happened for you growing up?
Well, you've met me, so you know I'm challenging to work without spirit, right? So I think even at that young age, I heard in retrospect, because at 4, I just assumed everybody saw what I saw. I didn't think it was anything strange at 4 or 5. I was out there talking with Native Americans in the woods behind the house, and I thought everybody did that. I didn't know different, right? So I would come in, and I remember talking to my mom as a child and telling her that. And she would poo-poo the idea of, that you're not seeing anything, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't until I was about 10, 11 years old, I was laying in bed, and my grandfather came to the bedside and sat down on the bed, shook my leg and said, "Hey, Bobby." I said, "Hi, Grandpa, how are you?" Said, "Well, tomorrow, your mom's going to be very sad and very upset. Just know I love you all very much, and we'll all see each other again one day." We talked for about 2 minutes, and he said, "I need you to turn over and go to sleep now." I said, "Okay, Grandpa, I love you. I love you." And about 5 hours later, my mom came into the bedroom. I shared a room with my 2 brothers, and came in crying and said, "Grandpa died last night." And my 2 brothers broke out into tears. He had had a heart attack a few weeks before, but he was in a hospital the last couple of weeks. And I jumped out of bed. I said, "I know, he was here." My mom said, "What?" Wow. And I said, so she said, she got rid of my 2 brothers. She said, "Tell me what your grandfather said." And so I told her the whole story. And she said, "Don't ever tell anybody that story." Mm-hmm. And then from that on, I thought I did something wrong. And my mom was a salutatorian of an all-girls Catholic school. And I was, we went to church every weekend, and I was an altar boy and all that. I thought I was doing something wrong. And so I turned off my gift completely at that juncture. I still saw spirit, but I never talked to anybody about it because I just thought it was bad. What I was doing was bad. And then we'll fast forward years later. There's a lot in between there, but years later, my brother told me the story about seeing me out in the backyard talking, just standing there in my onesie, just staring into the woods and wondering what the heck I was doing out there. And my parents they'll stand at the window looking at me like I was crazy. And then come to find out that I was, when I'm telling them after that is I'm talking to these spirits, and they had no clue, but this is now I'm in my 50s when I'm telling this story. And my mom, when she passed about 4 or 5 years ago now. And when she passed, I was laying 2 days before she passed. I told her, "Mom, you know what I do?" And you know what I see, and I've seen you're crossing, and this is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to occur. This is who's stepping forward. This is what they're going to say. I need you to have an easy crossing. You're going to fight this. I need you to take a breath, and I need you to let go. And she looked me straight in the eye, and she said, I know, I've seen it too. And she, at that point, 2 days before she passed, she opened up and she had those experiences and saw things all her life. But she didn't want to be known as the crazy lady in that small town. So she held her gift and kept it under wraps, didn't want me to be teased or ridiculed as a child. So she made me keep mine under wraps. So that's how I grew up. So now my niece and other relatives and some other people in my family have the same gift that I do. And so I'm teaching them how to work with it and how to utilize so that they don't have to go through that. But dealing with my sister is afraid, her daughter who has the same gift, she's afraid of how her daughter is going to be perceived, how her life is, because she's heard the stories that I have. So she is a worried mother now about her own child having this gift, but at least she's got me to help both of them hopefully see a different perspective than we had from our own mom. So I know it's a long story, but I want people to understand that it's what we do is challenging and some people don't believe. And my job is not to convert people into believing. My job is to try to help those who are having issues accept, understand, rationalize, and maybe resolve the issue or the problem at best case scenario for them so that they can go on and have a peaceful place to live and exist. That's the goal.
So one of our viewers brings up a really interesting point. She said something about, because then you're just schizophrenic, right? I think people
absolutely
can accuse you, not just you, Robert, but
of course, I get
it, of being mentally ill, have, kind of gone off their rocker or whatever. And that is legitimate, that we have all faced that, right, Terry? Have you had people say to you, I don't know about you, sister?
Yeah, and that was one thing, I've always heard angels and I've always heard other spirits that are disembodied. But the angels, especially, I would sit and talk to them, but I'd have to go away from the family to do that. It was like I couldn't sit there where all these people were because I lived in a big family. I'd have to go off to myself so I could communicate with them because it's like they look at you like you've got two heads. Who are you talking to? And thinking that there's something wrong with you because you're hearing something they don't hear. So that's always been there, that stigma of, we're different, but we're not different. Anybody can have this gift. We all have access to it. It's just opening up to it, right?
Absolutely. I'll liken it to the pandemic that we're currently going through. You can't see this virus, but it can still hurt you and still harm you. There are things out there that you can't see. And once, there are people out there right now in this environment who don't believe they're going to be adversely affected by the virus, that they either, if they catch it, they're not going to be harmed by it in a significant way. But the reality is no one knows how it's going to affect you. That's the reality of the situation. So you can be carrying this virus right now and not know it, but it's the same thing with spirit. You have to have a healthy respect for what the virus can do at the moment, like you have to have a healthy respect for spirit. And some people don't believe in the power of this virus and what it can do, and don't believe that it really exists, perhaps in some measure. But once they get the virus, then they're seeking medical attention and they want help. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people that I come in contact with. They may not believe in what I do or what I'm doing or what I'm seeing, but the first moment they have an encounter that they can't explain or it scares them, they will call and they want help because that they are enlightened to something that they hadn't been exposed to before. Some people need to see to believe. And I understand that. And again, that's what I said. I'm not trying to convert anybody, but I am here for you. If you have an issue, I'm not going to, worry about what your perception is of the spirit world. I just want to help you. If you're having a problem in some way, believe in what I do, believe in what I don't do. But if I can help you and it resolves your issue, then I've done a good job. And hopefully maybe it will open you up. And sometimes those experiences themselves are a clue to help you open up for your own personal development. There's a lot of people, you're not understanding the signs that Spirit's trying to give you. Finally, they up the ante where you finally see a spirit in your house or a shadow or something that you can't explain. And this is meant to open you up because you may not be have a religious bent or be spiritual in any way. And maybe this is just the other side telling you you need to open up and giving you the sign to call a light worker of some sort to try and get that information to help you and to help your soul open up a little bit so that you can grow and mature as a spiritual being on this plane.
Great. Thank you for that. Robert, I am curious because you took us from a 10-year-old child that was being told, don't ever tell anybody what you're seeing if you're seeing it, to you now in your 50s, this is what you do. So what happened for you? What support was there for you, either on the spiritual realm or in the physical realm, that brought you to this place?
Well, it's interesting because it ties in with what we were just talking about with people thinking you're crazy sometimes, or that, you know, that's not normal or whatever. Working in corporate America, I was an international executive for many years. I ran large departments and had many people reporting up to me. But in that environment, I could never say I did this, right? Because it would be, I couldn't be taken seriously in corporate America. Say, I report to the guy who says who sees dead people. You know, it wouldn't have gone over well in corporate America. So I hid it, did work behind the scenes, but then I started doing work for coworkers, and it kind of got out there what I did. But the journey was actually, I did ignore the gift for many years. I saw, continued to see, continued to hear, but ignored it, just pushed it out. So you and I would be having a conversation over a dinner table. I may see somebody peeking out from behind thing, knowing that I can see them and they can see me, knowing they're not on this plane, but would ignore it. Now, so what happened was probably about 16, 17 years ago. I was at a party, and I was standing behind a bar, making a drink for myself. And I was with the guy I started dating. We were dating for 3 months, and he took me to this party where I knew nobody at the party. I just moved here from Ohio. And so we're at the party, we're talking. He was talking with one person that he knew at the party. I'm making a drink, and I see this guy staring at me from across the room. And he's just looking at me, and it's, it's strange that somebody's just staring at you that intensely. And he did that for like maybe 2 minutes while I'm making this drink. And I kept looking up and kept seeing him staring at me. And he just made a beeline toward me across the room. And just his opening line was, I just had to see which of you is real. Like, well, it's a kind of a gay party. It's like, okay, that's an interesting opening line. So I thought, what do I do with this information that, And so I said, well, that's interesting. What do you mean? He said, well, standing right next to you is your grandfather. His name's Andrew. You're named after him. You saw him right before he passed. He came to see you. Right next to him is this gentleman. His name's Kevin. And he said you stuck a baseball glove into his casket right before he was buried. And he was wearing a blue jumper that you said that. And so he went through about 10 people that had passed in my life. They're all standing around me at this party. And he's reading all of them. And he's just telling me about all of them. And he got through maybe 10 of them. And my now husband came up to me and said, saw this guy chatting me up and said, what's going on here? And I said, you got to hear this guy. This guy is telling me about my life and telling me about all these people. And he sees dead people. And I didn't tell him. My husband, Mark, did not know at the time that I actually did this. I didn't want to tell him because I didn't want him to think I was crazy while we were dating. I waited till we were married until I told him to drop the bomb, right? So
Big problem.
Good job. I'm not, my mama didn't raise a dummy. So I went out and he said this, but after he told me about, there's a lot that happened at the party, I won't go into, but what happened at the end of this conversation, he was from Finland, met him this one time, has never been back, don't know, I have no idea what his name is or anything else, but he told me, these people are around you all the time. They're trying to get your attention. You're not paying attention. This is what you're supposed to, what I'm doing now is what you're supposed to be doing. You need to stop. You need to pay attention. You need to give people this information. This is what you're meant to do. So do it. And it took me aback because, again, I've been seeing dead people for, I don't hate to say dead. I've been seeing spirit for, because to them, they're not dead, right? They're still, they're still moving in spirit. So I'm seeing these spirits for all my life. And now it kind of clicked. There was a moment there now I can do something good with this. I don't have to be afraid. But he taught me how to protect myself. So this is another light worker helping another light worker to get in and do what they're supposed to be doing. And from that, I gleaned. So that's how I got to do what I do, and took my journey forward from there as just starting to kind of helping people when I sensed or perceived spirit. But I also knew at that point that I meant to teach and meant to help burgeoning mediums like I was helped and moved on my journey. I was given a kick in the fanny to do what I'm supposed to do here on this plane. And sometimes I'm not the sweetest person out there when I give this type of information to people, because I want people to take it seriously. I want people to understand this is your destiny. So Spirit has given me two great gifts that I cherish. One is to work with hauntings and work with spirits in this way. And the other is on people's life courses. So that if they're off their life course, what are they supposed to be doing on their spiritual journey? And sometimes people don't want to get off that journey. And it's my job to what your talent is to make your soul sing, because your soul singing will help you so much in the other avenues of your life. And people forget sometimes. Oh, I had one gentleman recently who was, your soul's not sinking, you're depressed. All this energy is stuck in the bed. It's in this house. I can't get through this. But they're telling me you used to do something 10 years ago that brought you such joy. He said, I was a comedian. And I gave up being a comedian for my job, because he's a stockbroker or works in that type of world, right? And I said, you really need to get back into comedy. And if you don't do it, you don't have to get money for it. Just make people laugh. Do it for yourself. Go to a comedy club. Go in this environment in particular where you can make people forget for 5 minutes. Do something that makes your soul sing. And I've been contacted recently, and he said it's made all the difference in his world, to find that one thing and to refocus on that aspect of his life that made his soul sing. And now all other aspects, he's starting to work out again. He's doing other things, because it was just one point of getting somebody to focus on what's really important in life. It's not the acquisition of money. It's the acquisition of your soul being on its correct and true journey that brings you happiness. And getting people to that point sometimes is one of the greatest joys I get out of the work that I do. You can tell I get animated about it, so I apologize. But I do. I love what I do.
No, don't ever apologize for carrying Spirit's message. Don't ever. I am so thrilled to have you with us here on EWN. I can't even tell you. Terry,
Well,
thank you for bringing Robert to us. It just is an amazing fit.
It is. I'm so very happy that he likes us and we like him. So match made in heaven.
Well, two things are going to happen on the show. Either I'm going to tell a good story here that will make people think about something in their life that's interesting, of an experience that I had, and entertain them a little bit, or I'm going to bore them to sleep. So either way, I win, right? So they're going to learn something, or we'll move in an interesting direction here, and hopefully get to relax a little bit and get a good night's sleep. Hopefully at the end of the day, that's the goal, right?
I'm not sure you're capable of actually boring anybody, but
yeah, I was going to say boring is not there with you, Robert.
Thanks.
So, all right. Well, folks, thank you so much for being with us. Robert, cannot wait. You're going to be with us every night, May 1st through 10 o'clock Eastern time for Robert's Haunted Pajama Party. It's not that his pajamas are haunted, folks. It's the party that's haunted.
My stories.
His stories are haunted. And then we're hoping after that for something like a once a week shot. We'll see where that goes. And so excited. And friends, I see a lot of hearts going up on the Facebook chat here.
Yeah, Facebook, the audience there has just absolutely loved this conversation.
Oh, great.
And I mentioned that if you want more of Robert today, you can come on at 5 o'clock to Gratitude Happy Hour. Robert and I will be on there at 5 o'clock. And you get to hear more about this amazing man.
Thanks, Jerry.
That's good. And Robert, if folks want to learn more about you, what website do they go to? Where do they go?
So you go, you can Google me, Robert Painley Medium. All my stuff will come up there. But they can get to my website at spirit-focus.com, or check out the YouTube videos and all kinds of fun stuff. Or if you have a question, I'm happy to answer all questions. Go ahead and email me at rapainley@gmail.com. I'm happy to help.
Perfect. And I'm excited to say that Robert is one of our very first offerings on EWN Enlightened Living. So when you see that page, like it, so you get all of the notifications to come on and watch the shows there. So to all of our friends on Facebook and YouTube, thank you for being here with us. Thank you for embracing Robert and embracing our new channel. We're so excited to be here for you and with you. So with that, we're going to say God bless and take care, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.